Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always delightful. We're getting ready for next weekend and Sunday. We are going to be graduating 13 people. And these are the people who have taken the course of study to become a minister, either a spiritual minister or a healing minister. Either one, they had a choice of what they wanted to do. And that's a step next to becoming ordained as a reverend. And it has been an amazing, amazing year. How many of you met somebody new in the classes? Yeah, wasn't that great? You meet somebody that you never even knew existed and found out you had so much in common with. I love that about schools. I love that about when you're taking classes. So we're going to be doing the graduation. We're asking all of the ministers to wear something that doesn't clash with green, because emerald green is the color of the stole you're going to be receiving. And I know some people go, I don't know, I didn't know what color it was going to be. Well, it's going to be emerald green. And we're asking you to bring your parents, bring your kids, bring your grandkids, I don't care who. Just come to have a good time. We're going to have cake and coffee afterwards. We're going to stay here late just to get to know people better. So please, and you invite anybody, tell them they have to have proof of vaccination. That's one of the things that the Billy DeFrank requires. Other than that, we want you to invite everybody, because this is a milestone. This is a stepping stone for you. You are moving into becoming a minister, and you're going to be amazed at how many times after people know that you're a minister, they ask you, could you do a blessing? Could you do a prayer? Could you come sit at the bedside of somebody who's passing? There's so many things you're going to do as a minister that your society that you are connected with is going to show you that respect of coming up with that title. So I want everybody to realize what a special time this is. And before we go any further, I want to talk about, we had a passing that really hit us all. John Perkins, who you all know, his mother passed away, and she died from choking to death. And so that's what started it, and it ended up giving her a heart attack. And so for those of you who met John, he was a gentleman who always checked our vaccination status. That's why John is not here. He lost his mom. And so when you are doing some prayer work or anything, put John Perkins in your prayers. This is a very difficult time for him. He's a special needs person, and to lose his rock is very, very difficult. And she had just retired after, is it 40 years, Lord? Yeah. And what, she was an occupational therapist?
She was.
Yeah, after 40 years. Wow. And just retired. And so, and do you remember her name?
Sarah.
One more time.
Sarah.
Sarah. Okay, and so we want to put out wonderful prayers for Sarah Perkins, and know that she did such an excellent job raising our John as it is. So that's part of what happens when you become a minister. You get calls, but you also get calls to do baptisms. You get calls to do so many different things. It's exciting to go into the ministry. Now, anybody have anything they'd like to talk about? Any new things up in your life you want to share? Yes, Mary.
My little car got smashed. Somebody bashed into me. I was sitting at a stoplight, and he came up and just smashed into the back of me. This is the first day I've been able to even move around. I got kind of bad back in my head.
Have you gotten some help with that?
I went to the hospital.
Okay. Well, we have people that are healers, Mary, so you might want to stay after and see if somebody can give you some healing energy. That'd be wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Mary, for sharing. And these things happen, and it's not that they happen, it's how we handle it after it happens. Some people are yellers and screamers, some people are criers, some people are stomping, other people are just absolutely stoic. And I can't think of any of them that is a good way to respond, or particularly a bad way if that's the way you do. What?
All of the above.
All of the above all together? Yeah, sometimes people do that too.
My granddaughter was with me too, so people consider
How
her
was she?
Ellie.
Yeah. Did Ellie handle it okay?
Yeah, she's just kind of shell-shocked.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course. So you have to show her you can be there to support her. She probably needs that too. Anybody have a birthday this week? Oh, I swear this group's not getting any older. Hey, Ed, are they drinking miracle juice or something here that they're just not getting any older?
I only offer confession to the Zoomers.
Yeah.
You've got this group.
I got this group. Will you have people on Zoom already?
They haven't confessed that
They haven't confessed it yet, okay.
yet.
thank you.
Yes, we do.
Well, or we can get them later, okay, after they all check in?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Got an announcement.
Yes.
Come on up.
Okay.
So my mom has been volunteering with a group that does cardiac, bring it down to my level, doing cardiac screenings for children and young adults, so age 12 to 25. So you get an EKG and a cardiologist reads it to look for any abnormalities. And the next one is Campbell Community Center on October 28th. So if any loved ones are in that 12 to 25 range, you can get it for free. It's really hard to get that kind of test anywhere else. So to be able to have that is just really good to know where their heart stands.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
How about adults? I'd like to know where my heart stands too. Dog.
You just have to convince them you're 25 or under.
So I don't even have clothes that age. What do you mean?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I believe this is to address kids that become real athletes and then fall over dead
Right.
because they didn't know they had a heart issue, so it's to cover that.
And that's very, you're very true, April. That's exactly what it is. And for those of you who have never been around anybody who's had something like that, my grandson did. And he was 11 months old, and he just was kind of listless. And they took him into the doctor, and the doctor said, oh, he's fine, and put his hand on his left foot, and there was no pulse. And his heart had a condition where he said if he'd gone into baseball or football older and it hadn't been caught, he would have done the same thing. He would have just dropped dead or have to be resuscitated. Yeah, and so he went in and had surgery when he was a year old, and he's healthy as can be. So that catching something at the very beginning is very, very important.
It's mandatory for student athletes
Yes.
right now, which is
That's
really
a good idea.
In
Because
this county, it's mandatory.
Yes, it's just silent, you don't know. Okay, and I don't think Jeanie has done a prayer yet, have you? An opening prayer?
Wow, that's what happens when you sign up.
That's what happens when you sit close. And when you're a ministerial candidate, that's what happens. And you do 100% on your test. That's what happens.
Oh, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Let's take a nice deep breath in. And as you let it out, slowly let your eyes close. And one more nice deep breath in. And slowly let it out. And I want you to imagine that you are a white feather. A white feather flowing on the breeze, back and forth, up and down. And as this feather floats slowly to the ground, it lands in the absolute most perfect place for you. Feel how light you are being this feather, having let go of any burdens that are on you. And as you land in that perfect place for you, just know that you've given up any burdens that may be weighing on you. And as you slowly breathe in and out, you feel the release because you're light as a feather. And in a moment, when it's good for you, open your eyes and take another nice deep breath. Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you so very much, Jeanie. I feel light as a feather. I like it. It works. It's very, very good.
I don't know, I feel kind of nauseous because feathers twirl in the air.
You're a swirling feather.
Well, I'm a contact barber, so look the other way.
Okay. And, as we go through this week, thinking of ourselves as light as a feather, realize that we can go with the wind, but you also are as a feather that has the strength to kind of land and just wait until the wind passes. There's so many ways that you can handle it when you think of yourself as a feather. Are you going to accompany me?
Sure. Yes.
Or do you want to do the meditation?
You do the meditation. I'll accompany you.
Tag team.
Yeah, I'd like you to. But yes, dear.
And then treat you to a song right after.
And then you're going to treat me to a song after?
Yes.
You can see how rehearsed this is.
It's not a mega church.
Just close your eyes and take a nice deep breath. No. I want each one of you to visualize yourself walking down a path and listening to a screeching owl in a tree. As you're walking down a path, it's in the forest. And as you're walking along, you're looking at the green trees. You're looking at the green grass. And with each step you take, you realize how beautiful our planet is. There's a bridge ahead of you that goes over a small brook. And as you walk over that bridge, you stop. And you look at the water moving. And you can see silver fish in the water swimming. And it's so peaceful. And it's gentle. And it's relaxing. And then right now I want you to hold that picture of gentle relaxation in your head. And now very gently send your picture to Lahaina and to other parts of Hawaii, where people are going through so much worry, loss, fear. You want to send a picture to them that shows them that the future is going to get back to the calm, green, flowing energy of Hawaii. And let them know that even though we're so many miles away, we are connected, feeling their hurt, their frustration, their fear. And just present a picture to them that they can bring into reality in their mind. And they can visualize your dream, your energy. And as you look into the river and you see it flowing gently, realize that that gentleness is in your control. You can worry, you can get scared, you can get mean, you can get mad, you can get angry, you can get frustrated. But right now today, calm yourself down so you can send calm, healing, and gentle energy. And visualize it, all that energy that you're sending, letting it pulsate towards the state of Hawaii. And each and one of the islands, as you know, they're so interconnected with energy and faith. And they need that loving energy that you have to help do away with the fear. Each one of you is a barometer of how life should be. When you see anger, send love. When you see frustration, please send a degree of calmness. And as you do that, you're going to be amazed at how calm you start feeling. Many are unaware that they're in charge of their emotions. Things happen in life. It's not something that God intended to hurt us in other ways. It's what Creator is sending us to learn. To learn that we are children of light. And when we leave this planet, we're going to go on to places that are different. Our spirit is going to be forever. So calm down the energy that you feel and make it loving and make it calming. And most of all, calm yourself down anytime you feel it, other than take a nice deep breath. Connect your feet to the earth. Connect your head to Source. And become that beacon of love, light, and calm wherever you go. Take another deep breath, and we're going to listen to the wonderful Tim.
Freedom and bliss of the happiest child, wisdom of the old sage who greets the world with a smile. We can live like them both right here and now. It's not so hard to learn how, 'cause worry and regret will only bring you down. There's no need to carry the weight of the world around. Claim your divine birthright today, 'cause there's so much in store. Happiness can be our way, and it's ready to outpour in our lives when we let go and know. We are the lifeblood of the universe. What we let flow always returns to us. Kindness, compassion, and prosperity. Doors will open when we realize we hold the key.
I told you never to call me here.
No one could change the past if they wanted to. Better to wake up and celebrate the new. And claim your divine birthright today, 'cause there's so much in store. Happiness can be our way, and it's ready to outpour in our lives when we let go and know.
Thank you so much, Tim, and I'm sorry for the interruption of the phone call. I don't know how many of you have children, but the only people who can reach me Sunday morning are one of my kids, and that was the one that lives in Virginia and never knows what time it is in California. So thank you, I apologize. That was wonderful, great. Now, did you all get a program when you walked in? Anybody not have a program? Okay, this is, oh boy. With it is our invitation to the event that's coming up next Sunday. And I love what Corky wrote about, we're immensely proud of their accomplishments and the positive impact they will have on the lives of others. This graduation ceremony will mark the beginning of their journey as ministers, spreading love, compassion, and enlightenment. And that's who they are. And so for everybody, please come and watch these amazing people make their transition into being ministers. And for those of you who took the classes, John Simmons is going to be here. Lynn Rogers is going to be here. People who taught you classes are going to be here. And I tried to get every single one of them that was one of your instructors in the classes to make it to then they were all so excited. But he said, sure, we'll be there. So, okay. Not only is he a singer, and not only is he composer of wonderful songs, but our lovely Tim is going to be our speaker today. Yay! Yeah. So we have Tim, and Tim, aren't they?
We're Janet-less this morning, so I'm pulling double duty here.
Yeah. So are you ready?
Sure.
Come on.
Question is, are you ready for me?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Actually, that wasn't just a greeting. That was a 2-word prayer for massive greater good for everyone here today, live and on Zoom. Massive greater good in all areas of life and a perfect healing of anything that needs to be healed. Starting this morning, actually starting right now, this instant. How many of you are ready to accept that experience?
Hallelujah.
Okay. And those of you who didn't respond, stick around. You might just change your mind. But in any case, good morning.
Good morning. Amen.
So as I was preparing for this talk, it dawned on me that we're well into the 3rd decade of the 21st century. How'd that happen?
Totally.
And these are turning out to be some interesting times. I don't need to reiterate the events of the past 4 or 5 years, but I think we can all agree that they brought about a lot of tragedy, anger, tribal thinking, and general cynicism. And yet, through it all, we're surviving and learning from our mistakes. I'm talking about the human race in general. And I have a good reason for my optimism. Throughout history, There have always been periods of trying times, some a lot worse than others, and yet every time period brings about a small part of the population that chooses to rise above that world mind thinking. And these are people who choose to be part of the solution, or at least refuse to be part of the problem. Does the name Martin Luther King ring a bell for anyone?
Yes.
Yes. Or Winston Churchill, or those of you who are here in December may recall my talk on Charles Dickens and his contribution to society. And the list goes on and on. Janet Childs. And without these great minds and voices of reason, the human race would have found itself extinct very early on in its existence. Now, if we take an honest look at the first half of the 20th century, and several of you here lived through part of that time, and they had a lot of good reasons to be cynical. What they have, the Spanish flu pandemic, not one, but 2 world wars, and of course the Holocaust, the development of nuclear weapons, and certainly no shortage of bigotry. It also brought us many people who chose to be the ones to light the candle, so to speak, when everyone around them was busy cursing the darkness. And I'd like to explore with you the life and consciousness of one such person, a great teacher and mystic by the name of Dr. Emmet Fox. Some of you may be familiar with him and his ministry. And some of you have probably even read one or more of his many books. Those of you who are not familiar with him at all, good. You've come to the right place today.
Good. Yay.
Yeah. Dr. Fox was one of the most influential teachers of the New Thought movement, and his influence reached well beyond the New Thought community. There were, in his time, and are today, practicing Buddhists and Baptists and UCM members, and people of numerous other religions who are fans and who have read his books. Now, many people of certain religions have to keep the books and their admiration hidden in their closet, but they're still fans and they still read them. And those of you who are about to become ministers, I strongly recommend reading at least one of his books or short booklets. I have some from my own library out there. Most are still in print and easy to obtain online. The language is somewhat archaic, but the lessons are timeless. And his ministry spanned just over 20 years, from 1931, when he took over as pastor of the Church of the Healing Christ in New York City, until his passing in 1952. But to begin at the beginning, he was born in Queenstown, Ireland in 1876 into an upper-class family. His father was a physician and member of the British Parliament, and his family was very devoutly, we could even say severely, Roman Catholic. And he was highly educated at the hands of the Jesuits, and in his early life highly respected as an electrical engineer, which in the early 20th century were few and far between, and very important in the progress of new technology. He was said to be shy, quiet, reserved, and unnoticeable in a crowd, classic definition of an introvert, but on the platform he was very compelling. By all accounts, not a great orator, but he had a presence and a consciousness that lifted the audience up and left many people with a higher understanding of God and of themselves. Before becoming a shy, reserved adult, he was a peculiar child, something I can certainly relate to. I think a lot of us here can. His family had mixed feelings about his unusual trait. They didn't know whether to be proud or ashamed of it, and who to announce it to or hide it from. And this left him quite confused as a child, as would be the case with most anyone. His family's ambivalence about his gift made him very unhappy and insecure. And the gift he is said to have possessed from a very early age is the power of healing. As an adult, he couldn't remember how it started or where it came from, nor did he remember how his devout Roman Catholic family even recognized it. Well, not the kind of family that would deal with that kind of thing, which gives this account all the more credibility. But they did put it to use very discreetly, and Emmet Fox recalled vividly several occasions in which he was taken from his warm bed in the middle of the night and bundled into a carriage and taken through the dark streets of his town to a candlelit bedside of an ill or possibly dying friend or family member, sometimes even a patient of his father. And they would leave him alone with this person, and he would take their hand or put his hand on their forehead and talk to them. He'd say whatever came to mind, but he always left knowing that this person would be fine and would recover. And he always seemed to find words that were meaningful to the person. Then, when he was finished doing this with the person, they would bundle him right back up, put him back onto the carriage, and promptly get him back to bed. And they always made him swear to never tell anyone about the events of those nights. It would get them into some deep trouble with their parish priest. Now, you might think that this kind of attention would have pleased him as a child, because generally children do enjoy attention, but children generally really hate being different. And for this reason, it really made him unhappy. He was mistrustful of his family because he never knew what they really thought of him, and it isolated him from his friends his own age group. And he felt he was carrying something that he didn't dare have anyone find out. So he grew up shy, introverted, and confused about who he was, and confused about why the religion, which played a major part in his family dynamics, had no place for him in his heart. Now, he loved much about the Catholic Church, but didn't think that if it knew much about him, that it would have much love for him. His parents eventually moved the family to England, and Emmet was turned over to the Jesuits for his education, all the way through high school and college. And during this time, he learned nothing that would help him understand this healing talent he possessed, or about his religion that would make him feel more at ease with it. But one thing the Jesuits did teach him very well was to think critically and scientifically. This is something that the Jesuit order is well known for throughout many generations. Almost 300 years before Fox, they taught this critical and scientific thinking to Pascal. And about one generation before him, they taught René Descartes. And about a century later, they taught this thinking to Voltaire. And in each of these cases, they taught them to think so scientifically and critically and perceptively that they thought their way right out of the Catholic Church. Some of them even became its greatest critics. And this was the case with Emmet Fox. The Jesuits taught him to think his way right out of Catholicism. And he always said that it was a sad departure. You know, I know a lot of people who gave up the religion they were raised in, saying, "Good riddance to bad rubbish." This wasn't the case for Emmet Fox. It was a very gradual departure and not an easy one, because he had many fond memories of growing up in it, and there was much about it that he loved. But when you gotta go, you gotta go. And he had to go. See, because he had to get an understanding of who he was and where he fit in. We could say he had to find himself. So he broadened his investigation, and this search led him to the New Thought movement, which was quite active all throughout England during the turn of the 19th to 20th century. He never really found a concrete explanation for his own gift of healing, but he did come to an understanding about spiritual healing in general that he could live with. And to put this understanding in his own words, quote, "The power to heal by action of the mind is latent in all people at soul level." It wasn't the uphold of saints, because he knew he was no saint, and it wasn't a sign of evil, because he had grown to realize he wasn't an evil person either. So he was working as an electrical engineer when he began attending New Thought lectures and classes. One of his early teachers, Harry Gaze, spelled G-A-Z-E, who survived him and actually became his biographer, Harry Gaze stated that his early impression of Emmet Fox gave no indication that he would eventually become a clear and articulate speaker who would pull in 5,000 people each week for Sunday church services. That's right. But during the early 1900s, he spent time with several teachers, including Thomas Troward. Lucky guy. Almost makes me wish I was born 100 years earlier.
Probably worked.
Yeah. Then in 1928, he was asked to give a talk to a small group of fellow students at Mortimer Hall in London, and they were astounded at all he had to say and his ability to communicate and inspire. And it was not long after that that he decided to put his career as an engineer on hold and tour England and Scotland and Ireland, giving lectures and seminars. And in 1931, he had expanded to touring the United States and was asked to speak at the Church of the Healing Christ in New York City. And at this time, they were looking for a new pastor and asked him if he wanted the job, which he promptly accepted. And so he preached and taught at this church for the next 20 years until his passing in 1952. They held Sunday services at New York Hippodrome Theater, which held up to 5,300 people until it closed in 1938. Then they moved to the Manhattan Opera House and several other locations over the years. And every summer, he closed the church down in June and didn't come back to start services again until after Labor Day. And during this time, he would go to France with friends for a long vacation, and every year he would tell the congregation that during the time the church would be closed, there are a lot of other similar churches that they could attend. If anyone finds one that's better for them, he would understand if they decided to stay with that one, because he wanted everyone to be in the right place for their spiritual journey. And that's a very generous and confident thing to say. Yet, every year after Labor Day, he always returned to a full house because he had important things to say. Now, the main thrust of his ministry was to teach a higher understanding of God, of yourself, and of your world. Here's a direct quote from him on that subject. "What do you think God is like? That is the most important question, because your idea of God will determine your whole life." And remember, whatever your definition of God is, that's all that is, your definition. You can't really define God. To define something, you have to say it is this and it's not any of that. How can you do that with something that's a universal presence? Something that's, what are the words we use? Omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent. So to define God, I think the word is an oxymoron. So our challenge is to always expand our understanding of and seek a greater definition of this universal presence. Because that will always be the God of your experience. Again, in Dr. Fox's own words, we must dare to know God not as an entity beyond us, but as an activity within us. See? Also, our understanding that it is forever creating a new expression of itself. And one way that it's doing that is by means of you, and by means of me, and by means of Dottie, anyone else you can think of. So as perfect expressions of God, or whatever you want to call it, we are always creating our world and our experience from the inside out. That's why Emmet Fox and many great minds before him taught us that a change for the better out there begins with a change in consciousness. That is, a change in your belief, in your habitual thinking, and in your self-definition. And Emmet Fox had a genius for empowering people with this understanding without requiring them to turn against their past and without insulting their intelligence. And those of you who are ministers or other types of counselors know that that's not an easy thing to do. When people find something new and good to turn to, the tendency for most people is to get angry at something old and used. They feel they need to have contempt for the old in order to let it go. And Dr. Fox had a unique way of teaching that you don't need to be angry at it to let it go. You just need to be thankful for whatever it did for you and for the purpose it served while it was in your life. And if it served no good purpose at all, be grateful that it didn't do you any more harm than it did. And when you embody a healing idea like that, you're ready to move into what he often called your true place. That is, moving through life expressing the truth of who and what you are. He used the terms your true place and your right place. Dr. Eric Butterworth once mentioned how students of religious science, Centers for Spiritual Living, or Unity, or any of those teachings, have tended to use those terms in sort of a Pollyanna way. I'm in my true place and my right place, and so it is. And not really knowing what they even mean. So. Yeah. But when Emmet Fox talked about your true place, he was often talking about, like what I said, recognizing the truth of who and what you are, God or Spirit, whatever you want to call it, expressing itself in a wonderful and unique way. And as such, expressing love, joy, peace, beauty, prosperity, happiness, balance in your own unique way. Recognizing that these things are your divine birthright, like I was just singing about, and thus letting them find their way into your life. Your right place, that's something different, and that can best be described as wherever you happen to be right now. However good or awful or mediocre your life experience is at the moment, that's simply the world cooperating with your consciousness. That is your definition of God and of yourself and of the world around you. But when you realize that's not your true place and begin to work on changing what's going on in here, that's when everything that needs to happen out there begins to set itself in motion. Our challenge is to break down that barrier between your true place and your right place. The way my teacher, Dr. J. Scott Neal, would explain it was to have us repeat a paraphrase of the 23rd Psalm. So everyone repeat this if you're so willing. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death,
I do not need to purchase property there and live the rest of my life there.
I do not need to purchase property there and live the rest of my life there.
I choose to move through it and be unmoved by it.
I choose to move through it and be unmoved by it.
I think you all got that.
Your time is up.
And that's a brief overview of Dr. Emmet Fox and what he taught. I hope you found it to be beneficial in some way. And remember, whenever we're studying Emmet Fox or any of the great minds that came before him, whether it be Socrates from ancient Greece or Lao Tse from ancient China, Jesus of Nazareth from ancient Palestine, or Ralph Waldo Emerson from not so ancient 19th century America. What they knew, we can know. What they practiced, we can practice. And so, let it be your way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now you're going to put another hat on.
And cap it off with this song, which I think fits in with what I was just talking about. And my dear friend and fellow choir member, Stephanie
Oh,
Herrera.
Brianna, you keep doing that.
That's my spiritual name.
I know, but I don't know if you're spiritual or not some days.
I'll just assume you are.
Yeah, so we'll have to assume you are. Okay. Okay.
So you enjoy this. Greater life is ready to thrive. All we need to do is recognize God is right where you are. You don't have to earn it or beseech it. It's no stretch for anyone to reach it. God is right where you are. Peace of mind is ours here and now. Spirit will always show us how. No political views to follow, no religious creeds to swallow. Just wake up to who and what you are. You can hook your wagon to a star. In the middle of a busy city, or the mountain peak you find so pretty. God is right where you are. In your church or mosque or synagogue, or the Monday morning traffic call. God is right where you are. The source of all our good is here. We don't need to worship or fear it. There are no dues you have to pay. There are no roles you have to play. All your dreams are waiting for you.
fashion or in clothing. God is right where you are. God is right where you are. Your greater life is ready to thrive. God is right where you are.
All we need to do is recognize
God is right where you are.
Fantastic. Oh, that is great. I think Songbird works really well for you as a
Yeah.
name.
Songbird is my nickname. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's
Now it's Reverend
great.
Songbird.
That's good. We'll do that. Tim, I would like to explain my names. In my spiritual practice, we have our modus operandi name, which is Brianna. That was my first spiritual name, and the inner meaning of that is protective. I didn't know I was going to get another spiritual name. As you grow in my spiritual practice, you get your growing name. So my legal name is Brianna Ferreira. And so my ministerial license is going to be in Brianna Ferreira because I use spiritual healing in my work, and under the law of the Board of Behavioral Sciences and Psychology, if you do something in psychology, you have to have a certificate or a specialization in it, right? Or you can be in trouble, right? You can't practice something you're not trained in. So that's why my ministerial license will be under Brianna Ferreira. But then I got a second spiritual name as I developed, and that is Stephanie. And the inner meaning of Stephanie, this is my growing name, is one who respects all people. And so when I'm called Stephanie, it reminds me this is my practice, and my growing edge is to be in that centered place, even with the people who are most challenging for me. And there are a lot of people who are very challenging for me. And so that's my growing name. So you can call me Reverend Songbird if you want, that's fine. And that's what I'll probably do mostly.
That's why I was teasing her about her name, is because each time I meet her, it was like, Janet said, then this is Songbird, okay, and then she says, I'm Stephanie, okay, and then I'm making out her ministerial certificate, it says Brianna, and I'm like, hey, you're wonderful, you've got so many names.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And Mary is excited about being able to pass the basket, so if I'd like you all to do the sacrament of giving with me. Giving to the ministry from which I receive my spiritual support and nurturing is an affirmation and consciousness of the truth that Spirit is the prospering power enriching every area of my life. And so it is. And thank you so much, Mary, for passing the basket. And if you right now feel a little bit short of money, just bless the basket and know that your blessings are just as important as your financial contributions. Yeah. And thank you so much for passing it around. I really do enjoy that. And how many of you think you're going to be here next Sunday? Do I have a show of hands? Well, good, yay, because I'm so excited about this. You don't realize how hard these people have worked. They attended classes twice a month. If they didn't attend class, they had to write a homework. And some of the homework was better than actually being there, I think, because it was so in-depth and so good. And then they had a 95-question test to take, and they had to stand up and give a speech in church. I mean, these people have really worked for the ministerial certification, and I'm so proud of them. And speaking of working, Ed, what do we have on Zoom?
Corky.
We have Corky on Zoom.
That's a surprise.
Eileen.
Oh, good.
Young.
John, I think.
And Chris Brown, Christine Milley, Donna Christensen, and Evers. And let me scroll.
Oh, that's
down.
right.
Yeah,
that's
that's
Kim.
Kim.
Oh,
From
okay.
Germany.
Yeah, she's from
That's
Munich,
what she put in
Germany.
here.
Yeah.
She put from Germany. Laura O, Patty and Joyce, Ruth, and Miss Sherry.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you,
Thank you, Ed, for all your work too. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Ed.
It's really great.
Zoomer dude.
And for you folks that are, you'll be getting an invitation, but please mark in your calendar the 26th of August. That's my 85th birthday, and you're all invited.
From 1 to 4 over at our place.
From 1 to 4 at the Casa del Lago, and you'll be getting an invitation. And please RSVP because we're having quite a bit of it catered. And as you know, when you're catering something, you kind of like to know how many people are going to be there. So if you say, yeah, and I'm bringing my daughter's son, that's great. I don't mind who you're bringing, I just need to know how many bodies we're going to have. And the theme is Hawaiian. And we're going to have a donation for Lahaina. Okay, so anything else about the 85th, Corky?
Are we lucky to have you?
Thank you so much. This has been quite the year. I think COVID, for those of you who haven't had it, and some of you had a light case, everybody says what they had with COVID, and I had it. I mean, every single symptom, and it was quite interesting. And there was moments that I thought, this is unusual being under quarantine, because it's the second time in my life I had. I was in quarantine for polio in 1942, and we were quarantined for a month and a half. And then because they didn't know what you got polio from, so when my mom went into the hospital and spent some time in an iron lung, we were in quarantine until they figured she wasn't going to be passing it on. I don't know how they judged any of this. All I know is we had a huge banner across our door that said quarantine in red on it. And you could not have anybody visit you unless they were at least 15 feet away. And so I got to stand 15 feet away and yell at my grandma. And so it was very interesting. And so many of you have had that. You've either been quarantined or been in a country maybe that was going through war. Any of those kind of activities that are so terrible, but yet you have survived. And I really thank you so much, Tim, talking about how we survive. And Emmet Fox was a great, great person to be talking about. And seriously, if you haven't done any reading from him or by him, please go online. A lot of his stuff you can get online, and you can just read it on your computer. He's a wonderful, deep thinker. Yeah. Deep thinker. Yeah. Yes.
You can also join the New Thought community and get magazines that have articles and all different kind of things.
Good. Thank you, Rachel. Okay.
Okay, and I have some invitations if anybody.
Invitations to something. Okay.
For the graduation.
For the graduation. Sounds good. You think that's it?
Yeah.
Donuts.
Donuts.
Eat donuts.
We have donuts from Lauren. We have coffee in the kitchen. Please have a donut, coffee, and some conversation. How's that sound? Thank you very much. It's been great having you here.